Welcome to the Common Geeking Program, a book club podcast where each episode, three of us read up on a topic and then discuss it from geeky, nerdy perspectives. This week, I am your host, Jahnavi, and we will be discussing Delicatessen, a 1991 French black comedy.
I was supposed to watch a movie? I bought a sandwich.
Well,
Was it on French bread?
that would have saved it.
That's basically, if I had gotten French bread, I would have avoided having nothing to talk about this episode. But I can tell you guys about a pretty sweet pumpernickel.
Jesus Christ.
We're going to change the topic of Common Geeking Program. We'll now call it
Common Sandwich Program.
Yeah, or like Common Deli Program. I don't know. But anyway, the theme that we'll be talking about is just consumption and what that means. I'm joined by two people, each of whom has selected a domain that they think connects to our topic and theme for this week. They are...
Hello, my name is Colin Ketchen, your first representative today, and therefore the best. And I'm going to be talking about, on the theme of consumption, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Season 4, Episode 1, Mac and Dennis, Manhunters, specifically the B-plot.
Why didn't you do the they solve the gas crisis, though?
It had fewer superficial connections with the topic.
Okay.
Which I will enumerate at a later point.
Well, I'm all about superficial. By the way, my name is Pat Bram. I'll be representing Wall-E, the 2008 Pixar film.
Are we doing this again?
Should we? We don't have to.
I'm down. I'm totally down, Pat. I love this.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to start by summarizing our topic and domains before we openly discuss. How do you not openly discuss? I've always kind of wondered that. But anyway.
It's called a Q&A.
Finally. We close with a competitive rating section to determine who best contributed and whether today's topic is enjoyable or informative or both.
Who's the reigning champion? It's been a while since Pat's... Okay.
I think Laura might be in the lead. Or Pat surpassed me pretty recently.
Editor's note. Since we're now on episode 99, seems like a good time to go over the current rankings. Colin is in first place with 15 gold stars, Patrick in second with 14, Laura in third with 12, Jeff in fourth with 11, Eddie in fifth with 10, Chowder has 9, Keenan has 8, Ryan has 5, Jahnavi has 4, Austin has 3, Matt has 2, and guests Devin and Alyssa each have 1. You're welcome. Goodbye.
Yes, yes, of course I did.
Yes, Pat, you surpassed me very recently. Congratulations on your well-earned victory. And I wanted to powwow with Jeff after we make some changes to the program where we track gold stars also by ratio, because Jahnavi has done a phenomenal job since she's joined the program, but has not been on as many episodes as, say, me. So there is going to be a disparity that I don't think properly serves her representative skills.
Well,
I might be phasing in and out of conversation. I made a cake today, and I ate a decent amount of it, and I'm fighting it hard.
Are you starched out, my friend?
I am quite starchy.
I guess it's better than being salty.
It's true. Whenever I poke my arms, it takes a few seconds for the skin to rebound out. It's just gross.
Oh, fuck. I did not need to hear that.
On the plus side, that means that if you were cannibalized, you would offer a lot of calories to those consuming you.
So for those who are on a bit of a very trim post-apocalyptic diet, I would not be the food of choice.
Which leads us to the summary of Delicatessen. There's kind of a lot in this movie, but I'll just stick to outlining the basic plot. The movie Delicatessen takes place in a sort of post-apocalyptic, destroyed...
A Pocahontas-liptic.
Pocahontas-liptic.
Pocahontas lipstick? We've gotten to something else that makes sense.
And title.
That was quick. Yeah, we found that quickly. I like it.
I'm nothing if not efficient. Anyway. That's very not true. Okay, so in a post-apocalyptic France, pretty much everything is destroyed. They're in this sort of small town area. There's one large, maybe like mansion / apartment building standing, and the landlord is also a butcher. Food and like grains and lentils are currency in this world because real money isn't a thing anymore. The butcher, who is also the landlord, he runs through handyman pretty fast because he puts out ads for them. They come and then he like butchers them and feeds them to his like tenants because that's how you get meat here.
I would like to say that that is not exactly the expedience with which the information is doled out in the film. It starts out with just, you slowly piece together that there's like a famine and everyone's hungry, but it certainly doesn't lead with the fact that these people are being killed and served to people. You can sort of glean it from the little intro.
I think it's heavily applied enough from the intro.
Yeah,
it's
maybe I'm.
If you read Wikipedia before you watch it, like I do sometimes, if I just want to like delve right into the deeper meaning behind it, like looking at the consumerism and consumption and stuff, then yeah, it everyone dies. Spoiler alert.
I hope you guys watched the movie when I told you to, and then came back to listen to the rest of it.
I did.
I watched it last night.
Oh, not you guys, just people listening.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so I'd like to point out that the newspaper is apparently called Hard Times, which is something I learned recently.
Wait, really?
Yeah, apparently it's the Hard Times
so
paper.
There was also a porno with a newspaper called that.
Oh, I see.
Wait, what? Really?
I have no idea. I just made that shit up.
Okay, you said it so deadpan and convincingly. I almost started Googling.
I'm gonna stay focused now.
Please don't.
Okay. Anyway.
So the handyman that gets hired, his name is Louison.
Mm-hmm.
And he's starting to hit it off with Julie?
Yes,
That's the
Julie.
name? Julie, which is the butcher's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And the butcher, is the butcher ever given a name besides the butcher?
I
don't think so.
I think his name's Clappet.
Clappet.
Clappet. I'm gonna call him Clappet.
Clappet sounds like the French pronunciation of that spelling.
Yeah.
Basically, he's telling everybody that he's gonna kill Louison, and everyone knows that they're eating people because I'm guessing it's the only way to get meat.
Yes.
In this world where famine has taken over everything.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I would kind of say that while that is certainly the central plot, most of the movie just kind of feels like a slices life approach to post-apocalypse.
It's true. There are numerous life slices you get of the people who live in the apartment building. There's this one lady who keeps trying to make these like kill yourself Rube Goldbergs.
Oh my god. What was it? Arone?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. There are 3 instances in the movie where she has like these suicide by Rube Goldberg machines set up.
Yeah.
And something keeps interrupting them. I laughed out loud every single... in my notes, I actually kept track of every time I laughed out loud at the movie. It's a longer list than I was expecting.
I'm telling you, Delicatessen is pretty great. And then eventually Julie is able to communicate the secret of the building and its supply of meat, which I don't think was a very well-kept secret, but what do I know?
Yeah, even the mailman knew.
Yeah, but poor Louison... He's, so he came to know. Julie ends up requesting the help of the troglodytes. They are the underground society.
Mole people.
Of mole people, and they're vegetarians.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Yeah, they were.
I didn't get that.
Being vegetarians is a radical act. They're like, meat is murder, literally. We're not for it.
Okay, did I miss something, or was the impetus of Julie finding the troglodytes simply she opens the Hard Times newspaper, and there's a claim in there like, troglodytes are a literal underground society? And she's like, well, I'm going to go down this manhole and see if that's true.
I thought they had mentioned them, like, earlier before, like, in the beginning.
They said it in passing. They would say, like, stupid trogs, but I thought that was just like... just like a dirty word for them.
In French?
No, I think they were.
Yeah.
I think they were referring to the those counterculture vegetarians who refuse to eat their fellow man. They end up storming the building, but there are some of the members of the apartment are not sympathetic to saving Louison.
I'd say most of them are not sympathetic to it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think all of them weren't, right? Like it was like everyone except Julie, pretty much.
I was under the impression that it was more of it was more necessary that, and they, he was their source of food.
Yeah.
And you can't exactly, shut that down in trying times.
Sure.
Yeah, nobody really expressed a problem with him. What was the name of the butcher's girlfriend? The
mistress?
Lady the mistress.
With the squeaky bed.
Yes, with the very squeaky bed. She seemed to get along with him, which was very strange to me, because toward the end of the film, what ends up happening is they're all chasing Louison through the building.
Because they're like, at the end of the day, you're okay, but we still gotta eat you.
Like, they still need meat. And the troglodytes were hired by Julie to kidnap him to protect him, but they accidentally get the mistress. And I can't believe... What really surprised me is the whole time I thought that the mistress was okay with Louison. They did dancing together with his clown stuff. They had that, like, infectious little moment where they're bouncing on the bed to find what the squeak is. And then at the end, she's like, here's the knife. Kill Louison. I'm like, wait. When did you get on his bad side?
Well, to her, that's the whole disconnect of the people living in the apartment, right? It's just like, this person is fine and everything, but, I mean, at the end of the day, he's food. And that's, I think, where a lot of the commentary comes in. Even though it's surreal and sometimes people are doing things that don't necessarily make sense, it's like, hey, a lot of the time comedy is all about disconnect, and that's the main disconnect of, like, Louison's interactions with people in the apartment. Of just like, yeah, you're a person like the rest of us. You're doing handyman things, helping us out. Like, yeah. And then in the mistress's case, like, yeah, she has all these positive interactions with him, but at the end of the day, she's totally willing to eat him because she's got to have that meat. So,
And she's not the only one that's having like positive interactions with him. Like,
right, he gets along with everybody basically in the apartment.
The kids were
Yes.
having a really good time with him.
Well, the kids kind of end up siding with him in the end.
That's
but
true.
I'm definitely getting ahead of myself there.
Those kids are chaos agents.
They are neutral chaotic.
They like bubbles.
Yes, that's exactly.
Chaotic neutral.
That's true.
It's the way to their
the
heart.
Smoke bubbles were cool.
Anyway, please watch the movie if you haven't seen the movie. People listening, it's pretty excellent. But yeah, so the troglodytes are kind of the
Yup.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
It's okay. Are you also dealing with cake brain?
I'm not dealing with cake brain, but I did get very little sleep last night, and then I've
That's
been
fair.
doing extremely boring government things all day.
Same.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't work for the government. Oh, shucks.
Must be nice.
Anyway, so at the end of the day, Louison and Julie end up running from these members of the apartment, sealing themselves in this like upstairs bathroom, flooding the bathroom so that when people finally break through, all of the water just washes them out of the
It
apartment.
was very good. It was
they
a
win.
very fun climax to the film.
And then they decide that they're going to play music together on the roof, and it's very cute.
It was very cute. And that was the first time in the movie that the very harsh yellow color grading faded out. Because the movie is like, it is yellow the whole time. And then when they're playing music on the roof at the end, the color grading is lifted and wow, the sky is blue, not like a pea orange.
Yeah. It looks less toxic. For most of the time, like inside of the apartment and the few shots from outside, like it does look like potentially toxic air, but then the sky clears. So yeah, there we have it. It's Delicatessen.
No, yeah, that's pretty much the whole film. Why did you pick that movie for this? What made you want to bring it up?
So I have been wanting to talk about it just because Delicatessen is one of my favorite films.
Oh, pressure's on.
I gravitate towards dark comedy in general. I think a lot of people do. But especially because
I would like the audience to know Matt just very slightly raised one eyebrow.
I think a lot of people do.
Shrek is love. Also, who's Matt?
I said Pat.
Oh.
Pat.
The M was a little bit stifled from the cake frosting still
Pat.
emblazoning my teeth. Matt.
I hope you can visualize this at home. dear listeners.
No.
Colin is just basically a gingerbread man right now,
Snap.
since Shrek is love and everything.
Gingy.
Not the gumdrop buttons.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about it because it was my favorite film, and also because something that's sort of become increasingly relevant in, I guess, conversations around the world and in communities is resource scarcity. And even though we are not currently post-apocalyptic,
Yet.
We are also not post-scarcity.
we are
so-
also not post-scarcity. And the other reason is that I've been a vegetarian all my life. I was born into a vegetarian family, and I'm tickled by the portrayal of, like, what it means to eat meat here and what it means to be vegetarian here.
Did you say pork trail?
I did. Dat pork trail.
The pork trail sounds like something else.
Family friendly. This isn't family friendly. Please don't listen to this
Not
with your family.
friendly. We don't like families. Go away.
Neither does the butcher, apparently.
That's very true.
Yeah. So those are just some of the reasons why I thought that it was worth talking about. I also think that there's a lot of things in Delicatessen to talk about. Like, it is very visually interesting. There's a lot of interesting, sort of playing with sound that goes on in it. It's very playful while being very dark. So I feel like even though the weirdness of it sometimes puts people off, there is kind of a little something for everybody.
Yeah, it's not, as far as the comedy part of it goes, black comedy, obviously meaning a very, like, darkly themed story, but I've never seen a black comedy this farcical. Mm-hmm. Like, it gets slapsticky, it gets vaudeville, it gets very animated with a lot of its gags, which tonally doesn't give you as much whiplash as you would think, going from two people, like, bouncing on a bed to a vaudeville tune coming out of the TV, and then cutting to a woman trying to get a sewing machine to splat her head when someone opens the door, or, like, when the sink fills up with water. Like,
She's trying to get, like, the toaster to drop in it.
Yeah. Oh god, that'll be a fun thing to talk about later. But I agree. It's contrasting a lot of things that seem like they shouldn't go together, but it does reconcile those various tones pretty handily.
So that is just about it for the summary. Do you guys want to start the second recording?
Second recording should be after the do means.
Oh, I'm sorry. That time I can't even blame the guide. I was just hallucinating. All right.
Colin, you want to go next?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Hit me.
Please.
Cool. Hi, everybody. My name's Colin Ketchen. It's my domain time, where I talk about my domain. What's a domain, you ask? It's a thing that relates to the topic, but isn't the topic. And my domain, specifically, is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Season 4, Episode 1, Mac and Dennis Manhunters. The A story of this episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia... Let's back up. Let's back up a little bit for those of you who may not know. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia
Is a lie.
Is a comedy series set in Philadelphia where it is, in fact, always sunny.
Wait, where is it?
It's in Philadelphia where it is, in fact, always sunny.
Oh, I had no idea.
And it is a comedy series featuring, at varying times, 4 to 5 very narcissistic people. I don't know if it is considered a black comedy, but it can also be very dark and disturbing in some of its themes, and pretty brazen in the way that it addresses them. And this episode addresses, much like Delicatessen, eating people, and it does that in 2 different ways. The first way is the A-plot of the story, and it's not really eating people, but 2 characters, Mac and Dennis, both with their own deep-seated insecurities about themselves, are challenged by the manipulator of this entire group, played by Danny DeVito. They're challenged by Frank that, like, deer hunting is tough. And they were like, no, it's not. The only real challenge for hunting is hunting men.
That most dangerous game, though.
So they find a priest that they made homeless.
Rickety Cricket.
they find Rickety Cricket and they say, yeah, you got a head start, but we're going to hunt you alive. And he's like, what? No, guys, what? No, please don't do this. and like the A story of the episode is focusing around them chasing Rickety Cricket, who is, I think, like weirdly skilled in parkour as he escapes them. But on one superficial level, I do just like the comparison of like the attitude it takes to hunt somebody, the difference being that it is narcissism in this show while it is survival in Delicatessen. But the plot that really made me want to bring this to the table is the B plot, which features the characters of Dee and Charlie. Also pretty messed up people. Charlie, pretty mentally unstable. Dee, sort of like a self-aggrandizing failure of a person. And they also steal some of Frank's meat, and they eat it, and they're like, wow, that was really good. Like, I've never had food that good before. I wonder what it was. It wasn't beef? What could it have been? And then Frank is like, it's human meat. And they're like, oh my God, no. And then a day later, they're like, Dee's like, Charlie, like, that was so good. I need more of it. And Charlie's like, we got the hunger. And they are spending the rest of the episode like panickedly trying to find human meats. At first they don't believe it, and they go to like Chinatown to figure out could this be a different kind of meat. So they try like monkey and alligator and all these different exotic meats, and they're like, this is it, nothing's it. This is not gonna work. And so they resort to trying to find human meat. At the end of the episode, like as they're preparing to like kill somebody and eat them, Frank reveals that it was in fact raccoon meat, and that the hunger is probably a tapeworm. And that they've just been freaking out for no particular reason. So it's a very funny episode. It's very bombastic.
Classic Frank.
Yeah, I like the idea that on a superficial level these things connect very closely. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is a very socially commentative show. I don't think this episode reaches quite the same zenith that Delicatessen is shooting for. But a complaint I have about Delicatessen is that its social commentary is sometimes drowned out by the comedy and by the slice of life setting, where I don't think it really emphasized the deeper conversations the movie was trying to have. And in that way, I think it mirrors this episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where clearly there are bigger ideas going on behind it, but there is just some good old-fashioned comedy between people eating each other, and that's my part.
All right. Thank you very much for that summary.
You're welcome. All right, Patrick, it is your turn now.
Spoiler alert, Matt Canavan's back. What's up, y'all?
Oh, no. It was you the whole time?
It's okay.
I texted Pat. He's good, BT dubs.
Oh.
He's back in Arizona.
Okay.
Thank God.
Good to know.
Okay, cool. So I decided to take a slightly different approach, as I used to do. I didn't interpret consumption quite as literally. I decided to talk about the 2008 animated classic WALL-E.
Absolutely a classic.
Yeah, one of my second favorite movie of all time.
Really? Yeah, it's up there for me. I'm a big fan of WALL-E.
Yeah. So basically, the premise is, if you have not seen this gem, it's the 29th century, and Earth has been abandoned because everything's totally polluted and just covered in garbage. So all of the human population basically gets on this giant spaceship, and they're living their days out there, and they've been there for 700 years. Meanwhile, there's this robot.
I did not know the timeline of that film.
Yes, 700 years.
That is a dramatic amount of time. Oh my goodness.
Yep. Lost train of thought. Found the train. So there's this one robot that's been going around cleaning everything up, basically trying to make better what everyone else left behind. And he finds this plant, which is basically evidence that, life is sustainable on Earth again. And then eventually he ends up going into space and basically is going on this adventure to deliver the plant to the people and bring everyone back to Earth. That's very, very, very watered down. But the reason I want to talk about it in terms of consumption was because before everyone, and I guess while everyone is in space, everyone's lives is dominated by this one big company by and large, which is supposed to be this big metaphor for big corporations everywhere, which is funny because
Consumerism.
Because Pixar/Disney is basically the granddaddy of all those.
Yeah, that is ironic that Disney, of all companies, is trying to comment on the problems with large corporations.
Yeah.
Go on.
So basically, this company had become such a meaningful part of everyone's life. You know, it was providing, food, water, housing, basically everything that everyone needed to live.
In space.
In space, but also on Earth before they went into space.
Yes. SpaceX meets Costco.
That's beautiful.
Oh my god. Yeah. Yep. No, yeah. Audience, once again, I wish you could see our faces where the eyes of both Matt and myself just kind of like popped open and glinted when we heard those
Yeah,
words.
you lost a gumdrop, Colin. Best be getting that back on.
I know that's referencing what I said earlier in the episode, but it feels off-put to be told you've lost a gumdrop.
Not the buttons! But yeah, so they basically became almost this IV drip of just necessary stuff that everyone needed to live, to the point where it was like almost it became toxic. And that is my topic.
Cool. Anyway, with all of our topic and domains summarized, let us move on to the discussion.
Lettuce? Said the vegetarian.
Ha.
Listen, as bad as that joke was, I want to point out that Jahnavi's still laughing.
I'm just crying. I'm so sad.
Oh, audience, if only you could see her face. Genuine tears.
So many genuine tears.
Oh, who started cutting onions here?
Let's start off with a general question about about Delicatessen. Because I let him saying that I wanted to talk about consumption and stuff, and Colin kind of addressed this already. But what was the point do you think Delicatessen was making, if it was making a point?
I think it wanted to introduce the concept of the sextronome, where two people humping loudly on a mattress can set the rhythmic pace for the activities everybody else in the building is doing, as exemplified when the butcher was humping real hard and everybody else's jobs sped up as his thrusting did, and stopped when he stopped.
I think we call that the rhythm of life, Colin.
I don't know. Matt, do you want to take first answer, or do you
Why
have
not?
no preference?
Go for it, Matt, because I think Colin summarized first.
So I think that the purpose of the film, I don't know.
So you're not entirely sure that it was making a point, or do you think that there was definitely some intended commentary there?
There's definitely something there. I got nothing. I'll think of it. Colin, you're up.
All right.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Tag out.
That's okay.
So we got
You got some time.
When you led with the idea of consumption as the unifying theme for our discussion,
Yes.
I was expecting the movie to be a little more substantive, and as I said in my domain, I think that the substance is overshadowed by other qualities of the movie. I think the point was more to entertain than I think it was to inform or heavily discuss, because even the world building itself is very sparse. There is enough information in the movie to know how this post-apocalyptic world is. They mention in one line that things aren't growing, so you understand the scarcity of grains and foods.
But that's more to like just set up their one spot, though. It doesn't really set up the whole world, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the thing that was getting me about it, was the fact that it does do the work to establish these rules, but those rules are not really the point of the movie. It kind of feels like a video game that puts you through a tutorial and then is like, that's just so you can do all this crazy shit for the next 40 hours. Like, it really felt like stage setting more than it did discussion.
Okay.
And through the lens of a comedy, I think that especially with like the troglodytes as the vegetarians, with the greed of the hungry people trying to chase down Louison, I think that it was, again, more about the comedy. As Jahnavi and I were saying before the recording, they did it for the gram. So when we look at how...
Those grams of meat.
Those grams of meat. When we look at how it actually spends its time, it doesn't spend a lot of time talking about this. It doesn't talk about how the drive for, bloodlust could affect this, or whether it's just, they just want meat, which seems to be the implication. We don't dive into what people are experiencing about that. We just see them chasing after Louison to eat meat, which is why I picked the It's Always Sunny episode, because it's the same behavior for different reasons, but we get kind of the same depth of exploration for why Charlie and Dee kidnap a homeless kid and try to eat him as the butcher is chasing down Louison. Like, they're so drastically different. I don't think either of them went too far in that direction. And to that end, I enjoyed the comedy of Delicatessen, but I think the comedy was the ultimate point. I think it was trying to entertain you based on a heady premise.
All right. Matt, have you further thoughts at this juncture?
I think I was having a lot of trouble trying to extrapolate deeper meaning out of it, because in the end there really isn't. What the purpose was to entertain, to kind of look at this what if scenario in a comical lens. But I definitely enjoyed it. But I think that as far as substance goes or deeper meaning, I'm not picking up on any of it.
Yeah, I think especially for Jahnavi, for someone like you who is intelligent and educated and likes the movie very much, I'm trying to get them gold star points. For someone like you who wants to sit and dig into movies like this, which I generally like to as well, and especially for a movie you enjoy this much, I've also been through the loop of I find something I like, and you can suss out that meaning. And I don't want to say that these commentative parts aren't there. They certainly are. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that they are present enough for me on a casual viewing to say this is such an incredible commentary about consumerism and the need to sustain our way of life at the cost of the well-being of others. That was a bit of a bridge too far for me, though. Yes, those things are definitely in the movie. And I'm not saying that you screamed it at me with that fervor, but I certainly felt attacked in that way. I'm kidding.
Well, no, I agree. If I hadn't seen this before and then I was presented with consumption as a theme, I would have just been most of this is not about consumption. So I can understand where you guys are coming from. My thing about the movie, and one of the reasons why I do like it so much, is that it doesn't shy away from things being ridiculous and horrifying at the same time. And
that's very
part
true.
of the thing that makes something surreal is that there's little mental disconnects throughout, what a viewer might think should happen, and how the characters are behaving, or the offbeat rules of how things work. Yeah. And the slapstickiness of the film kind of plays into that. But for me, in this movie, the having it be so surreal and slapsticky, and the disconnect between people just being or Louison's being okay, I'm a handyman looking for work, just trying to live my life, and then people being oh yeah, we can be perfectly civil and stuff to you, but yeah, we totally have to kill you.
We're gonna chomp down on your gams.
It's given a level of legitimacy and sense in this situation that takes it above other surreal things that I've seen, because as you've said, or as I think was mentioned before by Matt, by Pamat that
The PM is silent. It's at.
don't at me. Don't attack me. Don't attack me. That's such a good advice. Don't attack anybody, guys. Non-violence.
Glad we landed on that.
He didn't land anywhere. I'm sorry. I'm very sleep deprived. But yeah, so like in most of the time, if something is so exaggerated, or the difference between what you expect to happen or like what would happen normally and what is happening on the screen is wide, sometimes it's done just for comedy. But here, even though the movie like is primarily comedic, I don't think anyone's gonna be like, this is a dissertation. Because it's not, or if somebody is, this is a dissertation, please tell me, give me your dissertation. I will eat it up. I want to know. But,
Eat it up. Get it?
Consumption. We did it.
One thing that I'd like to kind of point out, though, is that I think the main character, the guy who comes in, his name was...
Louis
Vuitton?
Louison.
Sure. That guy... He was supposed to kind of be representative of just like a normal person.
Just a normal dude, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, he kind of was just supposed to be there to be like a stark contrast to...
Yeah, he was the only nice guy in that fucking building, too.
He was, though. Like, even the kids were douchebags.
Yeah. Those kids, there's a 6-year-old smoking cigarettes. You can't expect them to be particularly friendly.
It is France. Everyone smokes there. Or so
Very
I'm told.
true.
Apologies to every French person out there I just assumed about.
Just
Just kidding. It's 2019. I can assume again.
Maybe they're all sick of hearing about Delicatessen. Who knows? Maybe they're just like, oh, another person making assumptions about me.
I land in Paris with my Eiffel Tower hat and I'm just like, oh my God, how do you guys feel about Delicatessen? And I just get a bunch of as they walk away from me in the airport. Army of
Stupid American.
Okay.
I'd use my Canadian heritage as defense here, but I'm Scottish Canadian, not French Canadian.
Yeah, we're sorry, France. We're sorry.
No, I think pointing out the contrast of Louison, actually, I think that's probably a good way. It seems obvious, but yeah, that's actually a pretty good lens, I think, to focus on this, because he's the only one not really... Like, after he gets hired, he's not really talking about his survival. He's content to live in the building with everybody else.
Right, whereas everyone else, they're doing what they need to get by. Like, the one guy, there was the one guy, they basically was like the butcher's, like, henchman by choice, and he even gave up his own grandma just for the sake of keeping himself alive, you know?
Right.
Or his mother, or his grandma, one of them.
I think because of, like, the time of the movie, it seems to be a bit post World War II.
Yes,
it does. Yeah, the technology was very like 40s.
Right. So in the environment of something being post World War II, or an environment being devastated in this way, and, you know, like maybe the ground is so irradiated that, you know, growing food is no longer, you know, a given in this area, and people are trying to subsist, you would have a disconnect between, like, hey, we're just trying to live our lives, but that automatically implies somebody else cannot live their life because...
I'm now thinking of Mac and Dennis Manhunters through a different lens now, where, and this is some meta storytelling here, but almost like someone was like, what if we took the plot of Delicatessen and played it out in the real world, and that's their hunt of Rickety Cricket?
I mean, like, I do think that in ways that the movie is framed, it's kind of getting at what desperation is, and then the normalization of that, and then what it means
I think
to...
that's a better crystallization, I think, of how it read to me.
And then what it means to, like, being a vegetarian then becomes a much more radical stance in
Yeah.
something like, okay, we can't grow more food though. And they're like, no, we refuse to eat people. That's fucking gross, guys. Not gonna do it. But then it's normalized for everyone else to be like, but we have to. And then these guys are like, no, we're not for it. And perhaps they've found another way to live. So like this is essentially like the division of society into two parts. One of which is like prioritizing what some may consider a luxury of like having meat, and putting it like, no, this is our standard of living. We expect meat. We want meat. Regardless of the situation, we have to get it in some way. And then another part of society, which is like, no, seriously, guys, no, what are you doing? That's totally not okay to eat people. So
it's kind of interesting that I think if you want to compare this directly to WALL-E, was something that I don't think the movie Delicatessen really sinks its teeth into is the dichotomy between the troglodytes and the surface dwellers. Aside from the superficial behaviors where the troglodytes, they got big funny glasses, they all talk weird, they have headlamps and wetsuits.
They live underground.
They don't really. There's no inspection of their position as vegetarians refusing to eat people. Mm-hmm. Where I think WALL-E is a movie that, on the lens of consumption and how consuming resources and food affects our daily lives, WALL-E actually shows the different mindsets that affect these different lifestyles. Mm-hmm. Or rather, it shows the lifestyle that is contrasting to our own in the roly-poly people in their chairs.
I guess like the difference then is that WALL-E shows complacency. Or like it shows what happens as a result of complacency, and then everything is gone to whatever, and we're just, content to be as is, and there isn't that kind of tension in the ship. I forget what the ship is called in WALL-E.
The Axiom.
The Axiom.
There you go.
Yes.
I was going to call it Manuel, but I knew that was not right.
No, that is the book that tells how to repopulate Earth.
Yeah, but I mean, your neurons were still in the right category.
They're in there, so I haven't seen WALL-E in a long time, sadly. I guess.
But
Matt, do you want to watch WALL-E again?
Can we hold hands?
Only will I watch WALL-E if we can do that.
Perfect.
But like even the name of the ship in WALL-E is it's Axiom, and Axiom is something that you assume, so that you can do some kind of proof. So that was just the assumption of everybody leaving was just that this is the only way we can do it. We're not going to bother like fighting for the planet or whatever. Like this is what has to happen. Whereas,
hey Siri, what does axiom mean? A statement or proposition which is regarded as being established, accepted, or self-evidently true. Okay, yeah. I did not know what axiom meant.
Oh,
today I learned.
Oh.
Yet.
So,
man, you just brought out a whole level of shit Matt and I would never have recognized.
Well, I think that might have to do
awesome.
with like how much we would read into a movie, right? Because you're just like, hey,
I'm starting to see where you're coming from with Delicatessen now.
Like in WALL-E, I feel like it explains more stuff, because I think it explains more stuff because it's just more direct about it. It's like it sort of shoves it in your face. Delicatessen is more like, we're gonna frame it this way, and then we're gonna like show you all of this like absurd slapsticky. We're still making fun of humanity in this microcosm of this like office building, and we're still having these very like clowny moments.
As someone who was never really that good at analyzing stuff in the first place, I think that's why I appreciate WALL-E a bit more, just because it is more upfront.
Yeah, and that's not to say like I do love WALL-E. I don't think that WALL-E is lesser in any way. I just I just think that there's a different level. Like there's kind of some people would say when you're confronted with like a surreal or absurd thing that you don't need to read into it as much, because like, oh, it's just silly. But then I'm like, no, you have to read into it more because it gets more funny the more you think about it. And
I have movies like that myself, where the first couple times I watched Always Sunny, I did not enjoy the show. I had the same experience with The Office,
sure,
where it was just like the surface level comedy is what I was reacting to,
right?
But I enjoy shows more, and like Jahnavi, like I said, I totally understand why and how you do this with movies. I enjoy Sunny more when I get to pick apart like, ooh, how are like what is the thing they're talking about here? What is the meta?
And it's
like that episode where they had the podcast.
That yep. Common Geeking Program, episode 13. Check it out.
So anyway, I guess I didn't really get to another question. It was more just me talking more about Delicatessen and some of the topics that we were talking about. But I guess going back to consumption, I guess another basic question I could ask is like, whose side would you be on? Would you be with the troglodytes, or would you be with the butcher and his tenants in the apartment building, being like, this is no longer uncomfortable?
This becomes an uncomfortably real conversation because meat consumption has a pretty significant environmental impact.
Yes.
So even aside from like ethics, humane treatment of animals, and all the things that are going on with various supply chains, farms, and things like that, there's also just the fact that it takes a tremendous amount of resources and outputs a lot of waste to eat meat. And I will still fucking demolish a burger. And I'll do it happily. I love eating meat. I just made 2 little meatloafs today. And it begs the question.
How far does this go for you?
How far does this go for me, and what would it take for me to do what I know is the more sound decision? Because right now, I've been vegetarian, like, as a kid. Mm-hmm. Like, it was a thing I had to do, and I was like, I'm not doing that again if I can ever help it.
Somebody made you? Or
yeah, it was a thing our family had. We were on this thing. It was called, I believe it was called the Hallelujah Diet, if that gives you any idea of my upbringing.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, so that was fun. I drank powdered barley leaves mixed with water.
I mean, of course you would hate it if you did that.
No, I did. I also am really picky with fruits and vegetables, but I'm not picky with beef.
It is interesting that you talk about like where the meat comes from, because if you spin it back onto
Wally?
Delicatessen, and you think about like the ethical treatment of animals, the people in the apartment, they were basically cattle. Like, they were just being raised to eventually be butchered, you know?
Unless they found handymen. So.
Well, you know.
That's, I guess I didn't even, like, consider that part of it for everyone else in the building. Mm-hmm. I think everybody in the building kind of assumed that they were safe. Mm-hmm. And I kind of rolled with that assumption that they were safe from being slaughtered by the butcher, which is clearly not true because the grandma died.
Look at what they even feed the people a lot of the times too.
They're feeding them fucking corn.
It's grain.
Yeah, and it's probably also why those 6-year-olds are so like gangster-like with their smoking and their being dicks, because the weakest will get murdered here.
If we're looking at like how you can apply this mindset to real humans, I think that all of meat eating culture right now,
an extreme is what happens in Delicatessen. Yeah. You're just taking this disconnect that people have of like, hey, this is this thing that I know causes harm, but like I don't really care because it's delicious.
It's
and
real
taking
good.
It to an extreme. Yes.
It is. No, it really is. Except that, like, and this is a little fucked up here, but if you create a society or a culture around the idea that eventually you're going to eat people you know, morality is a subjective thing. Humans can get to a point where that's okay. I hope they don't. But, like, if we are going to spin out a fiction to a farther degree than Delicatessen does, like, that's an interesting world to play in, and where I think these commentaries could have been more effective.
That's why it's interesting to look at Julie's character, because at first, Louison and Julie are, like, you know, having a conversation. Louison's like, oh, man, they ate him. Can you believe it? And Julie's just like, yeah, okay.
This is what happens.
That's just, like, it's not weird to her. This is just the disconnect she's kind of had growing up. And like as the butcher's daughter, she's ingrained in this. But by the end, she's just like, oh man, I really, really, really don't think that we should butcher and eat this dude.
Yeah,
Please.
except that she
kind of represents somebody.
She didn't take a moral stand. Her father even pointed out that she was just like, you do this with all the guys. Like, get over it.
Yeah, which is
so. Here's the thing though. Like when I was, back when I was like. From age until I was 6 years old, I lived on a farm and we bred rabbits Did you not know this, Colin?
I did not know this.
Yeah.
I've known you for a long time.
This is
no.
educational in so many ways.
Yeah. I lived
Today
out
I
in
learned.
Rensselaer. We had a rabbit farm. We had rabbits and chickens, and we bred the rabbits for eating. And my parents always said, "Don't name the rabbits because
Don't
we're
name
gonna
the
eat them."
rabbits, yeah.
And then what does Julie do? She basically names.
She named him Louis Saul.
Yes.
Sorry.
But she created that emotional attachment to the point where you kind of realize, oh fuck, like what am I doing?
So what would
Yeah.
it do to people to like live in an apartment building where you cannot really have an emotional attachment because you don't know who's going to get eaten like the next day, and it doesn't
That,
make sense.
I would say, is actually very similar
Yeah.
to how I currently live in my real apartment, where I don't get to know anybody and none of them matter to me.
You don't care about your cats?
They live in my room with me.
Okay.
That's different.
It's different.
Are they tenants? No, you're their tenant because you buy their food still.
Why did you have to put it like that? You're going to send me into like an existential spiral. I got to think of it like that now. Every time you see me in the cat food aisle at Pet Supplies Plus, I'm just going to be staring at the bag like, damn, for 20 minutes.
Or you'll be like, oh, at least this isn't somebody I know.
Hi, do you have cats? No, I'm subletting from them.
So anyway, I like the both literal and existential horror presented by Delicatessen. And I think that it has a way of like being farcical and absurd with it while at the same time not pulling any punches as to what this means.
Yeah. No, I think that that's a fair assessment. I would probably, and I'll probably get to this in the ratings too, and not necessarily for a Wall-E style movie that is about the setting, where Delicatessen is very much about the people in the setting. I think I would have liked to see its fiction a little more developed. I think the more you develop a fiction, the more these ideas can resonate, even if you don't discuss them very overtly.
Indeed.
And this might be just my complaint as someone who is a frequent patron of sci-fi. Is when I'm presented with a fictional world, I like to see those gears turn, and I like to see those elements built out. Not with the intent of me being able to know everything that's going on, but so that there are enough rules in there that you can like almost treat it like a rendering machine. You can put an idea into this world, and it will be processed through that lens. I just don't feel like Delicatessen was developed enough to do that in the way I would like, but it was definitely crafted to discuss the things that you've brought to the table, and I do think it discussed them well. And any other dings I have for it are probably just my preference.
Well, I guess that's a reasonable segue into ratings. All right, thank you both for a hearty discussion.
Yum.
We move on to the ratings, and we'll begin by having each of our representatives rate the topic on a scale of 1 to 5 kilocalories.
Kilocalories?
Yeah, kilocalories.
Kilocalories. Okay, the measure. Kilo. I thought you were saying. I still had the gangster cows in my head with the sideways hooves.
You said
kilocalories. I thought you were saying kilocalories, like Killa.
That was the intent, dude. You explained.
Okay.
You explained something that was supposed to just be a throwaway tee-hee. Anyway.
Nothing funny can escape my grasp.
You can't escape it. I'm a black hole of comedy. Matt,
in the words of Griffin McElroy,
why don't you go
this
first?
Is comedy point.
We haven't heard Matt words in some time.
Yeah, that's just kind of how it goes. Anyway, so I would give it 4 out of 5 kilocalories. I actually really enjoyed the film. It was, stylistically very different than most other movies that we kind of watch these days, partially because of the era that it came from, but also because it is a foreign film. But I thought that the ideas that it did try to discuss, like, consumption, or, basically in a literally a live or die situation. I thought it was very interesting. Someone else's take on that. So 4 out of 5.
Cool. And you, Colin?
Because nothing funny can escape my clutches, I'm going to give this film 3 out of 5.
Very good, very good.
Kilocalories with it. Kilocalories.
Your cats
My
aren't
boy
safe.
is sitting right over
Someone
there on
take
the
'em.
couch. He's
Poop,
covering his
run.
eyes to shield himself
Run,
from the
poop,
horror.
run.
Meow.
So,
That's gonna get taken the wrong way.
I've already kind of listed my complaints about the film. The truth is, I actually enjoyed watching it quite a bit. I had a lot of fun. I laughed out loud many, many times.
You kept a tally.
I did.
So proud.
Let's actually. I'll go through the list after this, not during the ratings, but the hardest laugh may have been the third times that like Aurore or Arone or whatever her name was tried to commit suicide by like turning on the gas, opening the oven, tying a shotgun to the door, standing a noose around her head, and swallowing a bunch of pills. And like something happens, so all 5 of these attempts fail simultaneously, and she's just sitting there with the revelation that the voice is in her head or someone yelling at her through the pipes. And it's just, I think the comedy in this is so well executed. The camera work is so precise. The blocking, it felt like I was watching a play at times, and I mean that in the best way. Where I think my complaints about it are just from maybe, again, a sci-fi perspective, from like a fictional design perspective. I would have liked to see more on that side of things. And I understand it's also not a very high budget film, but I have no sense of the world outside of maybe 3 or 4 lines of dialogue. So it made it hard for me to stay grounded in this fiction aside from the humor itself. And that's just a me thing. So 3 out of 5, really enjoyed it. I would have liked to see, I would like to see a more developed idea of this on the fictional side.
If only Jean-Pierre Jeunet and
Mark
Caro had a couple million more dollars, perhaps.
If only. If only. No, I think they did a phenomenal job of what they did. It is a great watch. I was pleasantly surprised having watched it. I was like, I am like glad I spent an hour and 40 minutes watching this. This is worth it.
Well, I guess that's really all I really hope for, because I know that this movie can be hit or miss for some people. Like, some people are just like, you know what? No, I don't like this weird foreign French crap. Not for it.
Experiment. Matt, do you like the film Napoleon Dynamite?
Yes, Kip Dynamite is my spirit animal.
Very good. Jahnavi, do you like the film Napoleon Dynamite?
I have to admit, I have not seen it.
Okay, that's okay. I know Matt has, and that's why I wanted his opinion, because Napoleon is another infamously hit or miss comedy film. I want to see if we can establish any continuity here for determining comedic palette.
Yeah, like I remember when everyone was quoting Napoleon Dynamite all the time, and I was just like, I don't know what this is. What?
When? Like we still aren't?
Not as frequently. But in any case,
I think I know what I'm doing tonight.
I think an aside that hasn't come up yet, the directors of this, Jean-Pierre Jeunet and Mark Caro, only Jean-Pierre Jeunet. No, I don't know if they're vegetarian or not, but Jean-Pierre Jeunet is best known for Amélie.
I've heard of that.
Yes, so if you've seen anything else of his, it was probably Amélie. So for people listening, if you liked Amélie and you wanted something darker, go for this. Anyway, thank you very much for your ratings.
So how did we do this week?
Y'all did great. Mostly this was just an excuse to get people to watch this movie.
I kind of figured it was. I'm okay with it.
I do care about consumption and stuff too, but there are other things I could have picked for that. But Delicatessen was one that I don't feel like gets talked about a lot, so I wanted to bring it up.
That's part of the reason that I like that we did the show the way we did it, is like it forces us to do and watch things that we normally wouldn't, and I think that's good.
All right. Well, thank you guys both for this discussion. As I said, next I will award a Gold Star Student Award, giving a reward to the person who, I guess best gave a good crack at thinking about delicatessen and consumption in this episode. And this is tricky because I really liked Matt's selection of media, and a more Pixar idea of consumption, and I thought that is a good sort of segue into when you're talking about these things, that it's like, haha, silly, and haha, cannibalism, to, this is a real thing, that this topic is generalizable to a lot of human issues today. And then you can make that full loop around to, like, environmentalism and resources and, like, ethics all kind of smooshed together. And I think that did come out in your, selection of WALL-E and
Jahnavi, these hand gestures are doing it for me right now. I'm so into this presentation.
Please don't. I'm very tired. I'm trying my best.
I'm not making fun of you. I'm not lying at all. I'm cake-brained. This is keeping me so engaged. I can't look away when you are gesticulating as such.
So great job to Matt. And then Colin, I enjoyed your parallel selection. I think you had a lot of very, very fair critical commentary for Delicatessen. And I'm glad that you enjoyed it so much. But I don't know, man. This is a difficult thing to do. But I think I'm gonna have to give it. I think I'm gonna have to give it to Colin, because I feel as though you did a good job uniting kind of things from WALL-E and things from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and then tying them back to Delicatessen. I think you managed to sort of voraciously, with your gravitational comedy pull, just suck all of those in.
Colin is the black hole of dark comedy.
Black hole of dark comedy.
There's no joy left once it passes through my grubby paws. Man, I don't know. That was like, hearing you talk it out, I got a little nervous for that gold star there. That's the second time recently I got kind of palm spaghetti about this sort of stuff.
It was very... No, because I enjoyed both of your contribution to this discussion, but Colin did a really good job at, like, trying to unite these things. So... Yeah, by the power of Grayskull. That's not Captain
Great job,
Planet.
Colin.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Academy.
You'd like to thank
because
all
the
of the
Golden
meat
Globes
that you
just aired
eat
this week, I think.
for
That's not the
sustaining
Academy.
you.
That's true. I would like to thank the meatloaf I ate earlier today, because the hoisin ketchup glaze on it was actually quite delicious when baked for 15 minutes.
I'd like to remind you all that Colin is a gingerbread man who eats flesh. Keep that in mind when you when you next listen to this podcast.
Flesh and cats, like Grammy used to make.
And that's a wrap.
That about wraps it up. Thank you for listening to Common Geeking Program. I am your host, Jahnavi. I'm on Twitter if you care. I'm at JKIR1.
I'm gonna plug it. Real fun Twitter. I like the things that she posts. Thoroughly entertaining.
Again, I have been joined by Colin and Matt. Talk about yourselves.
My name's Colin. You can find me also on Twitter at SonicColinK, SONICOLINK. You could also probably find me on Xbox. I'm in the top 1% of players in the world for Gamerscore, so that's fun.
Wait, are you actually?
I actually am.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think out of yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Not the point of the episode.
I'm Matt, Matt Canavan. It's been nice coming back to Common Geeking Program, doing more editing stuff. You will not find me on social media at all. You could try to send me a personal email, but that's so 2000s. Yeah, good luck.
Good luck. You're the first person to issue it as a challenge. A lot of people will say, don't find me. You're like Dennis and Matt sending Rickety Cricket out there like, oh, we'll get you.
I'm going to get you.
All right.
Get you.
Who's hosting next week?
Not me.
So next week, my name is Colin Ketchen. Hi, guys. And I'm hosting the episode next week.
He's catching up
Episode
with you.
100. We are going to have a discussion with a familiar cast talking about milestone episodes anniversary, season series finales, 10th anniversary, 100th episode, Doctor Who 50th, like whatever. I'm going to be moderating a discussion with the cast from the first episode of Common Geeking Program. We have some big changes coming to the show after this, and this is going to be a fun way to tie that stuff off with a bow.
Would you say
I'm
that
really
it's a
excited to
good
record it.
segue?
Yup.
Okay.
I don't know what happened, but that was
Matt and I had sort of like a laugh chicken going on right there.
okay.
Yeah, so that'll be next week. That should be airing eventually. I need to get better at looking up the dates for when these things are airing. Wait, this episode is airing January
25th.
25th, so then that
Yes.
episode will be on February 1st. The 1st of February is going to be
Groundhog's Day.
Groundhog's Day. So listen to the episode over and over again.
Be sure to tune in then, and please follow us on Facebook or Twitter at Geeking Program. Any engagement, such as sharing a post, tagging us, or tweeting #CGP, will enter you into a raffle where you get to pick the topic for a future episode. Reviewing us on Apple Podcasts is a critical help to growing our show, and we will read new reviews on the air. We'll do it. I mean, that's got to be an ego boost.
Yeah, I don't think we have one, but let me see. I want new reviews, guys, real bad. Like, I really do. We're about to start doing some fun new projects, but if you could just leave us a little nugget, I'd nope, nothing new.
For all the times that we talk to you, sometimes via the internet, you could talk to us. Anyway.
Apple Podcast makes it real easy. You just scroll down from the episode and it's like, hey, rate it.
Right. Or
I did it.
Or
with
on
my podcast
Podbean or on YouTube or all the other places the podcast is now.
Stitcher, Google Play.
We're
your ears.
We're right there. If you just reach out,
We're
and let us
always
know
there.
how we're doing. You're everywhere to me. Anyway, thanks for listening, subscribing, sharing, and everything, and we will talk to you next week.
Cool. I'm gonna stop my recording.
This episode of the Common Geeking Program was hosted by Jahnavi, joined by the representatives Colin Ketchen and Matt Canavan. This episode is sponsored by Blue Apron. I'm just kidding. We are not that popular despite all the food themes discussed in this episode. The podcast is created and produced by Colin Ketchen and Jeff Leavitt, with this episode edited by myself, Colin Ketchen, but primarily by Jeff Leavitt and Matt Canavan. Next week is the airing of our 100th episode. We have some things to share and some fun topics to discuss, so tune in a week from today, next Friday, and thank you for listening to this.
No, I was just going to say my hand is still injured, so I'm not going to do the clap. I'm going to make a popping noise with my mouth.
Okay.
If you guys want to see, I got stitches, and I don't want to.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's so gnarly.
I had a.
Cheese and rice.
Do you want to go at 10 minutes, 30 seconds? That's 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Now.
We can do 10:30 for sure.
Can we also get like a sample of silence too?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it because I was still being quiet. Let's do 45.
Okay.
Okay.
And then we'll do the silence after.
Yes.
Okay. 5 seconds. I'm gonna feel so bad for whoever's editing this. They're gonna be like, "Where's the clap? Where's the clap? What is that popping sound?"